Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review of another 80s horror film, and this time it is The Changeling. Now, The Changeling, I would say, is one of the best ghost stories, honestly, of all time to me. If I made a list of my favorite movies involving ghosts, this would be on there. Along with The Fog, and I would put Poltergeist, the original, on there. Ghost with Patrick Swayze. But if we're talking horror films with ghosts, this and The Fog are definitely up there. And this is the Blu-ray from Severin Films. Now, the film stars George C. Scott, who is a great actor. It was always nice to see him in this kind of genre, because I love Exorcist 3, which I reviewed when I did my marathon of Exorcist films. And Exorcist 3 is actually my favorite of the franchise. I love his rapport between him and Brad Dourif in that movie. But back to this, George C. Scott, powerhouse of an actor, did a fantastic job. He is a guy who, right at the beginning, it hooks you in because you feel so bad for this character because he's with his wife, he's with his kid. They're parked in the snow. George C. Scott gets to a phone booth to call for help, and this horrific accident happens that ends with his wife and his kid being killed. And the way that's done, and there's no music to over-dramatize everything, and the way it sort of freeze frames on George C. Scott and you get the title, it really definitely leaves an impression for an opening of a movie. So sometime later, George C. Scott's character is a composer. He moves to Seattle, rents a mansion, and comes to find out that this mansion is haunted. There's loud banging, water faucets are turning on. He sees the image of a boy drowning in the tub. He's looking into it. He finds a door that leads to a hidden attic. And there's an old rusty wheelchair among other stuff there. And he's trying to figure out what's going on, what's happening. And the film has a great, rich atmosphere. The house, the way they made the house look, the subtle development. It's not a lot of cheap jump scares. It's more about mood, and it also has a really good story. I would say a fairly decent mystery as well. Which leads into it being, again, in my opinion, a good story. And you have probably one of the most famous points in the movie is there's this ball that I think it was his kids, and he drops off a bridge. He goes back home, and as soon as he enters, the same ball, wet, is dropping down the stairs and lands right in front of George C. Scott, as if the Forcer took it right from the bridge and teleported right there. And again, that's what I mean by the subtlety, which makes it a bit eerie, more creepy than a jump scare, and then I'm like, whatever. Cheapjack horse shit. This isn't the case. And Peter Medak, the director, did a wonderful job, which is just perplexes me that he would go on to direct such a terrible sequel called Species 2, which I ranted on that piece of crap when I did my Species marathon. I reviewed all the Species films, all 4 of them. The only good one being the first one. Species 2, pretty lame. Although that's still better than Species 3 and 4. But again, if you want to hear my thoughts, feel free to look up those reviews. Again, the only good one was the first one, but the guy who did this did Species 2? How the hell did that happen? Was he a one-trick pony? I don't know. So ultimately, he gets someone to do a seance to figure out what's going on. You get some EVP, and you find out that the ghost is of a boy named Joseph. And this Joseph was murdered. And you've come to find out that the loud banging is like the banging the kid was doing against the tub when he was being killed. And the investigation leads into, like I said, a very interesting concept and story. sad. And sadly, I could see this happening in real life. That Joseph was this crippled and sickly 6-year-old boy who was murdered by his father. The reason being, the grandfather said, "You can have this fortune, but my grandson has to reach the age of 21. Otherwise, nobody gets anything." So the son of the grandfather, like the father of Joseph, he's like, "Well, my kid is 6 years old and he's so sick, he's probably not going to reach 21. So murder the boy, bring him over, tell people I'm bringing him overseas to look at research to help him out, replace the boy by getting another kid from an orphanage. When he comes back, oh my God, he's so much better now, and it's been years, so of course he looks different because you haven't seen him in years." And that's where the title comes into play. And now that boy, the orphanage boy, has grown up to be a U.S. Senator. And funny enough, this has a moment that kind of reminds me of The Ring. Because there's a point where the investigation leads to a place where I guess that family used to be. And another family lives there. And they dig up the floor and there's a well. And he goes down the well and he finds this skeleton. The boy's skeleton. I don't know, just the fact that you're in a house and you dig up the floor and there's a well there, that reminds me of The Ring. I'm not sure if it was in the original, but the remake especially. I'm like, was any of that inspired by this movie? At least that part? So ultimately, George C. Scott doesn't confront the senator. The senator doesn't buy it at first, but then later on figures out the truth. The lady who was talking with George C. Scott, she gets attacked by the wheelchair. There's a bunch of wind in the house, and George C. Scott was saying, what else do you want from me? I've done everything I can. It leads into the senator having an astral projection in the house along the burning stairs. George C. Scott and the lady see all this, and they get out of the house, barely get out of the house alive. And then again, the movie, like I said, good story, interesting concept, very subtle, eerie atmosphere and events of the paranormal, very nicely shot. The angles they use on the house, the interior of the house, wonderful set design, the way that the camera moves within the house. George C. Scott, given his A game in the acting department, he's definitely one of the main reasons why I enjoy this film so much, because, like I said, he's a powerhouse actor, but at the same time, he's not overdoing it. He's not being over the top. You feel sorry for him, like I said, because of what happened at the beginning of the film. The score... Who did the score? Rick Wilkins? Very a score that fits the film well. It wasn't out of place or over dramatic. Glad this film finally got a Blu-ray. I know the first time this came on Blu-ray there were audio issues, but I did get a replacement disc. So I would assume if you do get this now, it would be fixed. Could be wrong, but yeah, The Changeling is just a showcase of how you do this kind of film right. That you don't need cheap-ass jump scares every 5 minutes. You don't need over-the-top CGI that make it look like a cartoon. that you just need good actors, a compelling story, an eerie atmosphere, competent direction, and some nice, creepy, subtle moments of the paranormal. And that didn't go a long way with the ghost story, as it does with the Changeling. It's a classic, and if you like ghost stories, if you've never seen the film, easily worth a look. If you're at all into ghost stories, it's easily worth a look. Hands down, no question about it. So anyway, thanks for watching, take care, and we will see you in the next video as I continue my journey into the horror films of the 1980s. Later.